My dad begged our godparents not to have the restaurant sing happy birthday to my autistic little brother because loud noise overwhelms him, and they did it anyway and mocked him when he cried. Posted by u/Thieksightingon. My family is close with a couple from church who we referred to as our godparents growing up since my preteen days. They're in their late 60s, and they've also counseled my parents on many things through the years: finances, big purchases, biblical advice. They're also church leaders, and they've celebrated almost all of our milestones with us, to the point that they're basically family. However, they struggle with boundaries, and I've lost respect for my parents who continue to give them a pass in this specific area pertaining to my post. My brother is autistic and very shy, and he always asks us not to have the waiters sing happy birthday when we go out for dinner. Our godparents have a prank they like to do to embarrass people, and that's having the waiters sing happy birthday, even when it's not someone's birthday, for free cake, every time we go to a restaurant. Before I continue, I want to point out that both my parents and godparents are church leaders, and church leaders, at least in our church, always go to a restaurant following Sunday service to mingle further. My godparents pull the prank on a random leader each Sunday, to the point that it became an inside joke in the group, like who's it gonna be today? But when they did it to my brother years ago, on the Sunday of his birthday week, he literally cried from the attention of the nearby tables as they sang to him. My dad asked them not do it to him anymore after that, and they listened for a few years until this weekend. My dad reminded them not to do it this year when we went to eat with leaders on the week of his birthday, and they agreed beforehand. But they later changed their mind and did it anyway, and said he was overreacting when he retreated to the bathroom for some time afterward. I told my dad that we shouldn't go out with them anymore, but he disagreed because he considers them family even though it's the second time now, and we rarely celebrate anything without them. Is there anything I can say to get through to him, because I don't know at this point, and they won't let my brother stay home after he asked following Saturday in regards to future restaurant trips with them. What should we do? Update. It's been some time since my first post, but I've since reflected on something that caused many misunderstandings in our family for years, thanks to a therapist at my college, and the restaurant incident being the latest in a string of misunderstandings. I didn't go to the therapist for myself, but rather my brother and a condition we couldn't name. My parents knew he had some sort of autism growing up, but they weren't sure what this other thing was. I'll describe it in a moment, as I did for my therapist, who was able to provide much clarity. But this condition played a role in why my brother didn't like being sung happy birthday at the restaurant, along with other similar instances in the past. My therapist believes my brother has a condition called sound sensitivity autism, or hyperacusis, that makes everyday sounds feel uncomfortably loud, and sometimes painful. It can cause anxiety, sometimes depression, or social isolation. My therapist came to this conclusion after hearing some things I told her about my brother, some dating back many years. We once went to a football game, and he hid in the concessions area with his headphones blasting because the inside seats were too loud. He has also hid in the bathroom at church when certain services were too loud. He doesn't like concerts and visibly shakes whenever a crowd gets loud, and he'll often wear headphones at home because the TV, especially live audience events, often triggers his senses. There are many more examples. But my parents have trouble understanding him and have blamed him for not wanting to do family activities when he actually does, just not the ones that trigger him. Our family loves sports, and he does too. He watches them with headphones on that's playing music, but doesn't watch with friends due to fear of being perceived as weird. The worst times were when he was forced to do activities he didn't want to. He once had anxiety before a piano recital. Not because he was nervous about playing, but because of every time applause would ring out during the event or any live event. That in and of itself caused anxiety. He enjoys playing piano, but not the performing part of it. He said it's like constantly living on edge because you never know when a loud sound will ring out. However, there was something my therapist told me on a subsequent visit that gave me hope, and it was an article she found from last year. There is an NBA player named Joe Ingles whose son had a similar condition, but he was younger 8, unlike my 11-year-old brother. Like my brother, he also didn't like loud environments and didn't attend his father's games as a result. However, last year, he had a breakthrough thanks to the medical professionals he saw, and his mother made plans for him to attend his father's game for the first time. Joe was no longer a starter at this point in his career. He came off the bench, but the Timberwolves coach told the team that he was gonna put Joe in the starting lineup for the game his son was attending, and the story was covered by media outlets. I brought that story to my parents to try and explain my brother's condition we never understood. And while they were receptive to it, They didn't feel that it was necessary to bring him to a doctor-therapist because they believe they can give him exposure tests on their own that'll lead to a similar breakthrough. But I disagree. Joe's son made a breakthrough thanks to guidance from medical professionals, not his parents trying to cure it on their own. But no matter how hard I pushed, they refused to take him to a professional and instead chose to reach out for support prayer from church. I can't express how upset that made me, and I couldn't bring him myself because I'm not his parent. I hate how they think they can easily replicate the breakthrough Joe's son had without professional help. I told my therapist, and she agrees it's unfortunate because it's better to address it as young as you can regarding the incident at the restaurant. My brother had a sensory overload when the waiters sang and other tables were looking at ours. This is the second time our godparents have done this to him. He was 8 the first time they did, and he started crying when they sang. We didn't know what hyperacusis was at the time, but my parents told our godparents not to do it again when his birthday approached in subsequent years, and they listened until he turned 11 this year. My parents reminded them not to do it this year too, and they agreed before breaking their promise. I tried explaining the unofficial diagnosis from my therapist to my godparents to make them understand. But they were even worse than my parents and said he needs to stop acting like a girl. Regarding their fake birthday recurring prank that leaders come to expect every Sunday they go to a restaurant after church. Like who's it's gonna be today lol. I told my parents it's wrong because it's stealing by taking advantage of the restaurant's free cake when it's not someone's birthday. But Dad said it's justified when the total is often over $100 and that the cake can't be more than like $3. I called him out for how the Bible says that all sin is equal, regardless of big or small, and he didn't like when I did. But back to my brother, they aren't budging in their opinion of not seeking a medical professional. And I hate when people use religion and arrogance to think of themselves as above doctors and such.